Hello and welcome to our Make It Big podcast. I'm Melissa Dixon. I'm Director of Brand and Content Marketing at BigCommerce. And with me is the wonderful Dana Maruffo. She is our Senior Manager of PR and Communications. Welcome, Dana.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here today.
I'm so excited to have you. So last week, Dana and I had the pleasure of attending NRF, Retail's Big Show, which is the National Retail Federation's annual conference. So much fun. I think that was the 114th annual, from what I recall. Yeah, pretty crazy. And for those of you who are not familiar, this show is massive. They call it Retail's Big Show for a reason. There were more than 40,000 people there, right? You said? I think last year was 35. This year was 40,000. So bigger than ever. There's over 6,200 brands and retailers, like 1,000 plus exhibitors, including BigCommerce and Feedonomics, and over 100 sessions, I think it was, over the course of 3 days. So truly a sight to behold. So Dana and I are going to discuss some of the key insights, some of the news, highlights from NRF, and yeah, I'm excited to share. Well, I was going to ask you sort of like, what was your experience? For me, it was the energy.
Yeah. I loved being there with you, by the way, because we all sensed it and fed off of it. And my favorite thing was, again, the energy, talking to people. What do you think about this year? Were you here last year? And doing these comparisons. But I also loved seeing people that I met last year back, talking to our partners, our customers, meeting new people, hearing new brands, the sessions. I mean, so much. And one of the things I didn't get to experience last year was the mock house.
Oh, that was great.
Cool.
That was great.
Yeah, very beneficial to the members and to get us all together under a roof. Just
on the topic of all the amazing sessions, it really, and the energy too. It's like NRF is kind of this unofficial kickoff of the new year. Yeah. It sort of serves as a forum for the industry to discuss all the new things that are coming out. The latest technologies, trends, predictions for the new year. So what were some of the predominant themes that you picked up on this year at NRF?
Oh gosh, there are a few. What I loved about the themes that I picked up on with all of the sessions is the themes sprinkled together. They're married, right? So for example, customer first was a really big one. And, where the retailers and the brands are essentially reinvigorating this approach. BigCommerce has been doing this forever. It's one of our core values. It's something we march towards every day. So it was refreshing to see that elevated at the conference this year. It sounds like it's an obvious one that should be, but believe it or not, I don't want to say it fell by the wayside, but I feel that people are starting to really see that importance of it.
Well, it's kind of this like back to basics approach,
Absolutely.
And it's one of those that, not to use too many metaphors, but like it's so easy to lose sight of that. It's one it's like keep your eye on the prize. It's easy to get caught up in the day-to-day for businesses and lose sight of customer needs and wants.
Absolutely.
So, totally.
And the technologies and the product and the features, absolutely. So, and again, customer first, back to elevating those customer experiences.
Right.
And so that ties to the second theme, which is, data. So what I picked up, and I would love your insight to what you thought if you picked up on it, is that data rules everything. I mean, at the end of the day, your applications, what you do, how you carry out, are only as good as the quality of the data that you put in it, right? Whether that's AI, omnichannel, hyper-personalization, returns management, supply chain, et cetera, et cetera. And so every session I noticed tied in data or analytics, consumer behavior, product data, and how do we use that, right? Now, what are we going to do to make it better, to put the customer first, et cetera? I was just fascinated by how it all tied together. Every session, I'm like, oh my God, I'm relating to the last panel.
Yeah,
so it was
absolutely.
exciting.
I mean, I think it's just like you're saying, all of these things, these different areas, whether you're talking about customer experience, personalization, whatever it is, everything is contingent upon having the right data to be able to create those personalized, elevated experiences.
Absolutely.
So, and you did really, I think, sense that connecting thread throughout all of the sessions.
Yeah.
So, and then of course, you touched on it, but there's AI.
AI.
The hot topic that was just everywhere. I know that we saw a ton of AI-related sessions with there was like Target, Estee Lauder, Elf Beauty, Lowe's, Victoria's Secret, so many more. Yeah, AI was everywhere, and I think rightly so, because there's so much potential for brands and retailers, and not to mention the global economy. I was reading one of the recent data points that I was reading is from McKinsey, and they were saying that Gen AI's impact on productivity could add as much as $4.4 trillion to the global economy annually. So like this is a big deal. And also there's the idea too, I know our own SVP of marketing, Megan Stabler, she's been known to say this, but like AI is not new.
Yep.
It's just that now we have better tools and it's more useful in our everyday lives. I did hear Salesforce CEO Mark Benioff said that too. He was saying, now we're just in this new moment in AI. So it's really interesting.
That's a really great, because one of my takeaways, again, it's AI and Gen AI, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, what's next in terms of the next generation of that? But I think what my biggest takeaway with AI being, I think everybody was saying, blue in the face.
Yeah.
We get it. Was that these session discussions were actually going deeper.
Right.
Like last year, the last several months, it's kind of been surfaced, kind of what to your point, right?
Yeah.
So I felt they were going deeper into the hows.
I mean, well, one of the sessions that I got the most out of was with Target. And they were talking about exactly that. And everybody loves Target. So, that was a packed out session. And what they were talking about is making sure that your use cases for Gen AI are tied to strategic business initiatives. Like, it's not about AI for AI's sake.
Yeah.
It's about the customer experience. So don't lose sight of that. The other thing that I think I certainly found useful for us here at BigCommerce, but and I think all brands and retailers would get value out of this, they were stressing the importance of executive immersion, meaning that they took the time to really bring their execs in from the beginning and educate them, on what kind of value, what kind of use cases, what does this even mean? So I think that's really important in setting goals and not losing sight of what you're trying to accomplish with AI.
Absolutely. Yeah. Oh, that was well said. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, just my last, I guess, point of theme that I saw, and we can get more into this later, but supply chain. I mean, there was a dedicated summit to that this year.
Yeah.
There were several panels on logistics and supply chain topics, as well as big on the returns management part, right? So what we're seeing is that the retailers are they're pivoting to new strategies because returns are insane. I forget there's a number of billions of dollars, and I'll get to it when we talk about this panel I went to.
Yeah.
Of money just in the U.S. that is lost on just returns that retailers are losing in the billions.
Yeah.
So basically, returns management. There's a new strategy that's kind of hot right now that I picked up on, which was the Returnless Strategy. And I personally had that experience.
Tell me about that.
With Wayfair.
Okay.
It was furniture. It was pool furniture, and there was a piece missing, and so I messaged them and ready to figure out how we get it back. Where do I drop it off? And they're like, don't worry about it, just keep it, and we'll get you the new one. And that right there's my loyalty.
Yeah,
right there.
Absolutely, there is. So shout out to a company called Tees to Your Door that I buy sort of wacky t-shirts from every now and then for my husband. They do the same thing because it's not worth the hassle.
Yeah.
And I love that as a consumer of not having to worry about it. But the Wayfair example is so great because especially for those larger purchases, it takes some of the stress off of making the purchase. Well, what else have you heard from some of our BigCommerce executives? Because you, as our PR and comms expert, you're always talking to media, you're always talking to our executives.
Yeah.
You did a bunch of amazing press interviews with lots of the team there at NRF. What else? What are they saying?
Well, I want to kind of touch back onto the AI thing because that was obviously the topic of, the star, if you will.
Right.
And I talked about, how we went deeper, but I also felt that the bigger part of the discussion, just really bigger picture umbrella, tied into the innovation and the evolution of retail as we know it today. which excites me for 2024 of,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, if we're saying that now, what are we going to see in December? Right. As we go into another year with the evolution of this. So, but from BigCommerce, sitting in these interviews and listening to, Megan and Steven and everybody just really go into this. And I'm not biased, but this is how I feel. I feel like BigCommerce was validated.
Yeah.
Feedonomics has been validated by other people and hearing the words and hearing what media are saying and validating us, right?
Yeah, the importance of agility and omnichannel connectivity.
Yes, and being able to pivot and being able to leverage the data.
Yeah.
Especially the data to be able to get those insights so you can actually have those customers, find the product, the conversion, the whole 9 yards of the journey. And it was really interesting too to hear the different perspectives, but ended up coming down to the same.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that is sort of that back to basics thing I was talking about, where it's just like these are the fundamentals of marketing and selling and commerce.
Yeah.
Just eye on the prize, focus on the customer, and just having the right tools, utilizing the right tools to be able to elevate that experience.
Yeah. So, and we're talking, the B2C here, but also what I gleaned from our executives is a really big one that's been emerging last year, picked up momentum in Q4 and hitting it now in 2024 is B2B e-commerce.
Oh, yeah.
And how our B2B brands are leveraging AI,
right?
Omnichannel, the data as they catch up to their counterparts. And we can talk more about that here in a little while, but that was a really big takeaway. So, those are the big areas we're going to see evolve. And we're, again, part of the theme there's so many themes, but they're all married.
I know.
And so B2B is definitely one of them.
Yeah, B2B is interesting. And of course, NRF's a retail conference, but it's like I heard plenty of talk about B2B in there too. And even in our own session, which we did with Feedonomics, it was myself moderating, and then we had Sharon Gee, who is our SVP of Sales and Partnerships at our subsidiary Feedonomics, and then Michael Challenger of Hauser, one of our joint BigCommerce and Feedonomics customers.
Yep.
He is a B2B and B2C brand, know, and that's so rich in their use case. And he chatted about that in the session as well. He touched on it a little bit about the omnichannel connectivity there.
Absolutely. I have some thoughts on that.
Oh, yeah.
By the way,
you were at the session.
I was, and good job. I have to say, very kudos. Your interview style really brought out the best in those two to bring out the story.
Oh, thanks. They don't need my help. Those are two phenomenal, very charismatic speakers.
Aren't they?
With a wealth of knowledge. But yeah, they were great. But yeah, tell me what you got out of that.
Yeah, again, just listening to the executives, being in the know with the media, as well as just being able to have to talk about it myself and being on the comms team here. Both BigCommerce and Feedonomics, they've been leading the omni-channel data strategy, flag for customers for quite some time.
Totally.
Right?
Yeah.
So now what's happening is the discussions are really they're sticking. Mm-hmm. Customers are hearing it. Hauser is, again, the great example. And so, Sharon does such a great job about talking about how, they take the product data from the systems of choice and transforming it and putting it into a washing machine, so to speak, right?
Yeah.
Spitting it out and it's all pretty and clean. And then when it's sent to channels like Google and Amazon, it performs. That is the simplest way. And so anybody that hears that, it's kind of tell me more, right?
Totally.
And Hauser, Michael, the CEO, he has an e-commerce background. I'm not sure if a lot of people know that, but he came in and this is an outstanding use case of this approach.
Just thinking about the Hauser use case in terms of data is really interesting too, because with them, it was all about sort of syndicating that product data across all the different channels and marketplaces, social commerce, all of that. So there's that side of data with the product data, getting it out there, getting it uniform, making sure it's searchable and optimized. But then it's also utilizing their first party data to create the most personalized experiences. So I just find it really interesting that the importance of data is so multifaceted there.
Yeah.
You know, got to have that data, get it out there. Then you got to take that data from your customers and make the most of it. So it's really deep and across the entire
complex,
business.
quite frankly.
Yeah.
And that's where the Feedonomics and BigCommerce come together to simplify that journey for Hauser. I have to say, and by the way, if anybody's missed that, it's actually on the NRF agenda, the video. If anybody wants to catch it again and hear the amazing story and the touch points.
And we have it on our BigCommerce LinkedIn page as well.
That's right.
You can find it in our videos. So
I think that overall, there's a few takeaways, but I have to say the biggest, most impressive thing for me is the fact that, and I love hearing Michael speak. I mean, he's just so eloquent about it. But it took, when he came into the CEO role, which was a year and a half ago, maybe.
Yeah.
He walked into a site that was static.
Totally.
It was a complete still. And so he had a speaking gig in 4 weeks and said, on digital transformation. And he's like, I can't go in to be a keynote speaker with this kind of a website that does nothing. Like, there's just no way, right? That being said, he came in with a Shopify mindset. That was his experience. And it goes back to just the open-mindedness that he had to go, oh, hi, Sharon. Oh, nice to meet you.
Yeah.
Well, this is what's going on. And Sharon saying, well, hear me out.
Right.
And he goes, well, can you do that? Can you meet for? Yeah, hear me out. Ends up happening and opens his mind to hear what she has to say and says, you know what? Let's give it a shot.
Yeah.
To me, that is success. That is how the better for the business.
And I think, and that too shows a true customer-centric mindset, because Hauser is looking for the best solution.
That's right.
And not afraid to learn about different tools and take chances and explore new solutions. So,
and that's the beauty of his e-commerce background.
Exactly.
And his knowledge there. But, in my opinion, the dream team of BigCommerce and Feedonomics and our agency partner, Coalition Technologies, which was behind the build, to meet that, so impressive. And then we've got many tech stack partners from Stripe to Bazaar Voice involved. So,
well, I wanted to talk a little bit about customer experience more. There were some, like we said, it's all tied together. I went to some great sessions that were anchored in customer experience. And one of the pieces of the puzzle that came up a lot was loyalty and loyalty programs. And you mentioned Wayfair. I did go to a session with Wayfair. They brought up a really interesting point about using payments as a form of loyalty, where they were basically saying, if you're using a financing plan, that can help with retention. People are coming back because they know they have options. They have a line of credit. And then also with buy now, pay later, that's really building loyalty too. And that might still be a controversial tool. I know a lot of people have mixed feelings about it, but it's out there.
Yeah,
it's prevalent.
It sure is.
And people are using it. H&M also had a really interesting take on loyalty programs for Gen Z specifically, although I think it's relevant to the larger, consumer population. So basically they were talking about how loyalty programs need to be twofold in the sense that they're transactional, but also that they need to have non-transactional components like surprise and delight, community activations, events, access to designer collaborations, and that non-transactional side is really what differentiates brands. So I think we saw a lot of that at NRF about the experience, also elevating the in-store experience. I think that's a big one too.
Huge.
Yeah, I think, with consumers looking for more convenience, more personalization, there's this opportunity for brands to really up-level their retail stores. And I know we've talked about this before. You see this a lot in trends, but BOPUS and Boris are so common now.
Yep.
But also now it's like that is fully table stakes at this point. So if you've got, if you're omnichannel and you have retail stores, like that is definitely the bare minimum of bridging the gap between digital and physical.
Absolutely.
Don't you think?
Yeah. And actually that's another topic that was, flushed throughout, and actually even in the media landscape as they all do their recaps as well, right?
Yeah.
Is unified commerce, you know?
Yep.
That's huge, which ties into omnichannel.
Exactly.
To your point of the examples you gave on the sessions you went to with what these brands are doing. And obviously these brands are huge. So like you said, there's a lot at stake there. But then you've got your mid-size, you know, and then of course your smaller ones that are maybe, you know, upper smaller into lower mid that are growing fast, that they've got to like pay attention to that stuff. So
yeah, it was interesting. I heard in one of the sessions you talking about unified commerce, and it's kind of like omnichannel commerce on steroids. It is the same concept, but it's the idea that everything is truly tied together. Everything is connected. And in one of the sessions, I think it was either H&M or WD Partners who had talked about making the in-store experience almost as comfortable as shopping at home, which I found really interesting. Ooh. Because now we're trying to, you know, in the past it was more like, oh, well, we're trying to bring the physical presence online. Now we're trying to recreate the comfort of our homes and bring that into these stores. So H&M talked about having like curated Spotify playlists, certain scents that they knew their customers liked, and just making sure that they have really knowledgeable staff in the stores that can really help curate that experience. So it's really interesting. And I think that also, how do you create that experience? With data, so it all comes full circle.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna get a T-shirt that just says "Data Rolls," and I'm gonna walk around with it.
It's all about the data. Data rules everything around me. Yeah,
it does. Just you mentioned the whole live shopping and things. I did. Yeah. I happened to make it to a panel, a live commerce panel. It's a session, I guess, with Fanatics, Roku, and HSN. That was really enlightening to me. Again, you put your consumer hat on. We're all consumers.
Right.
Just because we're in the space doesn't mean that we're not shopping. So live shopping, for example, has been huge in China for a while. Okay, and it's going to take off in the U.S. Hasn't quite. But, we've got like a partner, Firework, who provide this technology for, let's say, the Notori company, which is another customer of ours. They're succeeding so well with it. So I think it's baby steps. I think we'll get there. But in this case, Roku was kind of the front and center talking about live commerce.
Yeah.
But you have live shopping, and then you've got live commerce, which is from the streaming apps. Roku's a great example. I don't know if you've experienced it, but I think it was Peacock. During with ads, you'll see it pop up with a trivia question or a question, and you use your remote to answer yes or no, and then or you answer the question multiple choice, and then if you hit it, it says great job. If you don't, it says no, but next time or try again. And that's not shopping, but that's still interaction engagement, right?
Still that immersive experience.
Exactly. Yeah. And so Roku, what was cool about this is that Peter Hamilton, the Senior Director of Ad Innovation at Roku.
Okay.
Quick background. I had a chance to talk with him after seeing his panel.
Oh, nice.
I recognized him from the panel, and he stopped in our booth.
That's great.
And he sold his business about, I think, 2 years ago. And he joined Roku. And he started this live commerce program from the ground up for Roku. And so this has kind of been a test and learn for them as well since then. And so the consumer behavior and expectations when it comes to shopping on your television versus your phone are completely different.
Yeah.
I mean, if you think about it. I don't know if you've ever had that experience yet where, let's say you're setting up a streaming service and then all of a sudden it says, do you want to use your phone as your remote?
Absolutely.
Yeah. What I like about that is it's faster to go through all the letters. But when you want to control it, it's a lot easier on the remote, right? So I just felt like, the tips at HSN, which is live true shopping, and then Roku were two different, but yet at the end of the day, it's about community.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
It's about building that community, building that trust, the quality control of content. You know this in your world.
Absolutely.
Of what we say, aligning with the brand, aligning with the partnership. So they were really big on that and sharing on their successes and Roku, what they've learned, what they've maybe stumbled at a little bit, and what they're going to fix.
Well, what I found in common with all of these speakers and just people we talked to, I think there was a really strong test and learn mindset.
Yeah.
And that was really one of the big takeaways that I had as an attendee too. Yeah. Where whether it's live shopping or, starting a new channel or utilizing a new AI tool, you heard a lot about these, all of these brands and retailers talking about testing and learning and, growing and optimizing over time. And often I think we feel the pressure as e-commerce professionals or as these brands and retailers to just dive headfirst into everything. But I really heard people stressing the importance of having clear objectives and testing and learning into.
And there's just really no shame in that game at all. Why would you want to roll out and fail?
Exactly.
Right out of the gate.
Exactly.
So I think that's a great point, that's kind of something that people are like, okay, let me dust off this ego and let me dust this. And I'm going to go ahead and just be transparent and be real. And let's do this.
Yeah.
So that was really cool. And in fact, the HSN guy that was on the panel, he was the chief merchandising officer. He's like, you want to roll this out? Don't. If you do, make sure you have certain things in place, or else just don't touch it. Right. It's a complex beast.
Yeah,
and exactly. I just loved that. And I actually I wanted to stand up and applaud him, to be honest with you. But
I'm surprised you didn't. It seems like
knowing me, I know.
Well, what do you feel like was another big takeaway for you? What did you really get out of the sessions? I mean, we saw all these themes and so many things. I think for me personally, like I was saying, it kind of was the test and learn thing, because especially as a content marketer, I already feel like I'm behind on AI. We've dabbled, we're starting to use it more. In fact, this audio video team has definitely done some dabbling. But that was my takeaway for myself as an e-commerce professional, was like, all right, don't be scared and don't have, these sky high expectations. Be realistic, test and learn into it.
One of the things about this conference, it was huge this year, but just the concurring sessions. You can't make them all.
Can't go to all of them.
And so it's kind of like, and then certain days you can really hit it, and then the other days you're slammed, you can't really attend. And so it's been great hearing your perspective, covering what I didn't get to go to. But, I'm kind of with you in terms of, the test and learn, but I really, really enjoy hearing the transparency and almost the vulnerability from some of these brands. That really were sharing, instead of tooting their own horn and we do this and we're the best at that. They really were like, hold on, we're recognizing this. And we've had to backpedal. We've got to do that, or we want to do this that we haven't been doing to make it better. And that was a really big takeaway from me.
Awesome. That's a great observation, and I completely agree. We've covered a lot today, but I know in all the conversations you and I have regularly, Dana, we've covered so much more. What else is on your mind that you wanted to highlight that you think is valuable for the audience that we didn't get to yet?
Oh, that's a great question. Well, what comes top of mind is future-proofing the tech stack.
Yes.
And composability. We have talked about this all year. And in fact, Megan Stabler talks extremely well to this, and she's very passionate about it, as is BigCommerce. We were actually, it's funny, we were in a media interview with Nicole at Retail Touchpoints, and that was kind of one of the first questions. Hey, Megan, what do you think of composability? Is it off topic? Is it dead now? Is it boring? And Megan's like, absolutely not. In fact, it's still emerging in the US. This is one of those areas that Europe just grabbed and ran with. And so they're so much more advanced. But with composability, there's still such a learning curve happening. And that's where we are really good at as one of the first members of the Mock Alliance.
Totally.
Which is, based on the composability and being architectures based on the Mock principles. In case you aren't aware of what Mock stands for, it's microservices-based, API-first, cloud-native, and headless.
Yes.
And so, in 2024, we talked about it earlier about market uncertainty.
Right.
And the whole macroeconomic backdrop that has hope. It's still looming, but brands and retailers, what we're going to still continue to see in them being cost conscious when it comes to their tech investments, but they're knowing the value of it. So they're going to do it.
Exactly.
End of story, right?
Yeah, and that, there's no real hard, fast way to future-proof, as we say.
Yeah.
But the best thing you can do is stay flexible, stay agile, and make sure that when these new tools emerge or these new consumer behaviors arise, that you can pivot quickly, that you can take advantage
Absolutely.
of those trends.
Yeah, because when it comes to supporting digital commerce operations, composability is going to become even more important, and I think we're going to see that throughout the year build even more in the conversations happening. So, and it's not even just, oh my gosh, you've got to pivot. It's like we're growing.
Right.
And we need our business to grow with us. We need our tech stack to grow with us. So there's the big bonus there.
Exactly. Yeah, great insight. I'm glad that you brought that up. I know we're sort of getting to the end here and going to close this out, but I would love to know, what are you most excited about for 2024?
Ooh.
Whether it's, certain trends or tools, or just, where you think that the landscape is going.
It goes back to the Gen AI. I don't want to beat it to the ground, but I think where we are with Gen AI today, and I said this in the beginning of our conversation of where it's going to go, what's going to pop up in terms of the next generation or an up level of AI in December when we end the year going into what we know now. Yeah. And then talking about it at NRF next year.
Right.
That's what I'm excited about, like mostly, as well as a lot of these predictions we're hearing and looking back and going, well, did we meet them? Is that true? Are we there? Because no matter what, right now, we still have this macroeconomic backdrop with us. Right? There's more hope to it, but it's still affecting. And I think that's where, people are going to be not cautious, but more aware on their tech investments and what they want to do.
And more intentional.
Very intentional. And then really turning to these advanced technologies to make it more efficient and what have you, to have better outcomes. So, again, finally, just those advanced technologies that hit the market this year. So
I love that. It's always exciting just to see how things progress over the year.
I love me some disruption.
I know.
Let's do this.
Yes, that's why you're at BigCommerce. I think for me, it's all of that for sure. Like a little more specifically, I'm really curious to see the evolution of social commerce.
Yeah.
A year ago, I was not purchasing via social. And now I'm like a regular social commerce.
Do you use your mobile?
Person. I do, yeah. And to the point where I'm like, stop serving me these ads that you know me so well.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I love the convenience of it. And just, separating myself from it, but the larger landscape, I'm really curious to see how the adoption rate of social commerce, because right now, we know it's really number one for product discovery. There's the data shows that, but not everyone's making the purchase and converting all the way. So I think it'll be interesting to see when that does catch on.
Yeah, it goes back to the data.
It does.
And so one of the sessions I went to was on returns management, really, and how to make that better or just combat it. But at the end of the day, with the returns and just getting the products out there and why it's not converting, why there's cart abandonment.
Yeah.
It goes back to that data and finding out. But at the end, you want to get that right product right. That description, the actual product, what the customer is looking for and what they want. If you get it right the first time, you're not going to have any problem converting, much less having a return, right? So that's kind of another takeaway I walked away with today that you just sparked in my head. But
I know we could keep going.
We really could,
hour.
But data.
Yeah. Well, it's been so great chatting with you. I would love to have you back on the Make It Big podcast again.
Thanks, Melissa. I enjoyed it very much.
Thanks so much, Dana. And thank you to our listeners for joining. Hope you got some value out of this episode. And for more NRF insights, the NRF website and blog has a ton of great content. And we also have some great articles on our own BigCommerce blog. Thanks for listening to the Make It Big podcast.